Hello and welcome to our presentation on WildScan, a semi-automated AI pipeline for wildlife detection, classification, and continuous learning. My name is Edwin, and along with my team members Tyler and Jeffrey, we will be walking you through how we use machine learning to automate the classification of wildlife species from trail camera images, which helps streamline wildlife efforts. Now let's discuss the business use case behind WildScan. Conservationists and ecologists use trail camera images to track wildlife, but the manual analysis of these large data sets is insufficient, error-prone, and unsustainable. WildScan will leverage a machine learning pipeline on SageMaker using ResNet 18 for multi-class species classification in trail camera images. The system incorporates timestamp-based data splitting and real-time performance monitoring to simulate real-world generalization and continuous models update. With over 85% validation accuracy, WildScan helps reduce manual efforts and enables near real-time wildlife monitoring. However, we do acknowledge that there is risk, such as data imbalance and potential misuse of the system.
So let's check out our model architectures. So we had three of them. First, we use ResNet 18 as our baseline. This is just a pre-trained model fine-tuned for 14 wildlife classes. This gave us a strong performance right out of the box with minimal changes, and it served as our benchmark for comparison. Second, we tried ResNet 18 with time vectors. Here we added cyclical encoding of the capture date so the model could potentially pick up on seasonal and daily activity patterns of animals. In our dataset, this didn't lead to a big performance jump, but in a longer term deployment, we could expect this to be more useful. And then finally, we built out the ScratchResNet. This is just a custom CNN trained entirely from scratch. It uses 4 residual stages with 2 blocks each, and it's designed to learn features directly from wildlife data without relying on pre training. This approach let us test how well a completely original architecture could perform in this domain. For optimization, we approach the ResNet 18 models and ScratchResNet very differently. For ResNet 18 and the time vectors variant, our main goal was to establish a baseline. So we kept hyperparameter tuning minimal. We applied the same standard pre-processing and simple augmentation like flips and normalization, just enough to make fair comparisons without overcomplicating the setup. For ScratchResNet, because it was built entirely from scratch, we needed a more thorough approach. We used Optuna for hyperparameter tuning, testing different numbers of residual blocks, channel sizes, dropout rates, learning rates, weight decay values, and batch sizes. To help the model generalize, we applied a richer augmentation pipeline, including mix-up, random resize crop, color jitter, and random erasing. We also applied a one cycle LR schedule for stable convergence, along with early stopping and checkpointing to keep the training process efficient and reproducible. With those setups in place for each model, we were ready to train and see how they actually performed. And that's where we ran into some interesting patterns, which started to emerge in the results. Once we had our models trained, here's how they performed. Starting with ResNet 18, our baseline, it delivered strong initial accuracy, but we did see signs of overfitting. That means that it was learning the training set well, but not generalizing as effectively to new unseen data. We'll be looking at hyperparameter tuning in the future work to address that. For ResNet 18 with time vectors, performance was very similar to the baseline. In this data split, adding seasonal and daily time patterns didn't make a big impact, but we expect it could be more valuable in a long term deployment where those patterns are more pronounced. ScratchResNet reached about 74% validation accuracy, which is quite strong given that it was trained entirely from scratch with no pre training. It excelled at classifying distinct species like cats and coyotes, but it did struggle with visually similar ones such as foxes and coyotes, where even humans might have trouble. One other note, toward the end of the project, we did get MegaDetector working, which allowed us to run automated bounding box detection across the larger dataset. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time to fully pre-process and retrain all our models with the expanded data. That's something we see as a major opportunity to do on the next phase, as it could greatly improve classification performance and reduce class imbalance. Looking ahead, our next steps are to tune hyperparameters for the ResNet variants, experiment with attention modules and class specific augmentation to target the specific species the model confuses the most, and expand our dataset using MegaDetector assisted labeling. We're also planning to explore video monitoring and bulk image upload so the system is better suited for real world deployment at scale.
We evaluated our three baseline models on two test sets, an in-location and an out-location dataset. Our ResNet 18 baseline achieved the highest in-location accuracy at 91% and an F1 macro of 0.8. When we added time vectors to the model, performance stayed almost identical, showing that temporal features didn't provide a meaningful benefit in this initial setup. Notably, though, our Model 0, which was designed and trained entirely from scratch, achieved a very reasonable and highly encouraging result with an in-location accuracy at 71%. All three models suffered similar drops in accuracy and F1 scores when tested out of location. We next evaluated the confidence and reliability of the predictions of our baseline models. All of our models achieved reasonable calibration within familiar domains, with EC scores going between 2.5 to 4% on the in-location data. However, they all are severely overconfident with geographic domain shifts, with ECE scores jumping to between 8 to 17% without calibration and 6 to 11% with calibration. Using reliability diagrams, we found that Model 2 had the best response to our project's TVA calibration method, and which makes it the most suitable candidate for production simulation. We finally used the rest of the images for production simulation to analyze the behavior of our project's pipeline post-deployment. Our simulation revealed that, first, the temporal update frequency impacts the performance stability of our pipeline. In our simulation configuration, quarterly updates resulted to highly volatile model performance. And second, we observed that the in-location and out-location performance trends closely track each other, suggesting temporal transferability of active learning benefits from across geographic domains. In practice, this suggests that a single active learning strategy with annual updates can achieve stable performance across multiple regions.
There are several enhancements that could be implemented to improve the WildScan system. First would be to build a web or mobile interface to make the system more accessible in the field. This would allow researchers to upload trail camera images and get real-time predictions. Also, adding a multi-label support will enable the model to recognize multiple species within a single image, which is very common in wildlife images. Another enhancement would be to incorporate tools like RadCam, which helps visualize the parts of the image that the model focused on to make its prediction. Finally, to increase the model's generalization, the dataset could be expanded to include wildlife datasets from other countries or ecosystems. These improvements will make WildScan more reliable and usable for global conservation efforts.
I just want to quickly run through our demo just real quick. I'm not going to be going over too much of the code in depth, but up here we have some of our configuration files, our weights from our best scratch model, our classes that we're going to be detecting, and then our detector weights right here. We are using MegaDetector v5 for that, so we finally got that working. This is our custom model. Then we have our detector boxes. That's going to be for MegaDetector, and then the rest of this is just going to be interface stuff. So yeah, if we run all this, we can actually get a local URL here. You can run it yourself too if you have the required files from the GitHub. We should be met with this page here. So here we just drop an image. We also in the future want to implement video feed, but currently we do not have that. So right now we're just going to select an image. So these are just some demo images I selected just at random. But select one of these. I'm going to use this one because it has two animals in the image. But we can see here that if we make this a little bit bigger, that it MegaDetector selected each of the individual animals, and we classified each of the individual animals as well as the prediction scores right here. So we can see 0.82 and 0.89, which is really cool. And then here on our predictions, we can see the likelihood of each one. This is just going to be for the main image, or for the main object, I should say. Currently it doesn't do it for all of them, but just for that main object, which is the biggest one in the image. And then at the bottom, we have a bit of a human feedback loop. So you can flag the image as misclassified, low confidence, or other. And if we click misclassified, for example, it will actually create a CSV for us, just so we can, see the images or see the errors in the image, and it flagged it right here. It's just a way for us to get, some human feedback and make our model better. We do also want to implement a way for us to kind of use this on bundles of images or groups of images, so you don't have to, upload each one at a time, maybe just drag in a folder or something like that. So there's definitely, some spots to be worked on with this, but all in all, this is a great start for WildScan. So yeah, thank you guys so much for checking out our demo with me. I appreciate it.
To recap, our project, we developed an end-to-end AI system for wildlife monitoring, which is capable of detecting, classifying, and continuously learning from new camera trap images. This semi-automated pipeline is designed to handle large volumes of data while significantly reducing the need for manual review. We tested 3 classifier models. The first was a standard ResNet 18, the second was a ResNet 18 with temporal vectors, and the third was our custom-built ScratchResNet model. Looking at the results we obtained for both ResNet 18 models gave strong baselines, although some overfitting was observed. And for the ScratchResNet model, it achieved about 74% validation accuracy without any pre-training. It performed well on distinct species, but had issues with species that looked very similar. Also, the active learning aspect yielded a high confidence on a recently learned distribution pattern, which is then used to report uncertainty on new samples that will require human annotation. We were able to successfully integrate MegaDetector for automated bounding box detection, but due to limited time, we were unable to retrain all our models with the expanded dataset. Overall, our project shows that a modular scalable AI system is viable for real-world conservation applications. As for the next steps, we plan to improve the model's architecture, expand the datasets, add deployment features like bulk uploads, video monitoring, and batch inference to make the system more robust and field ready.